So do you ever wonder if the laws of attraction actually work? If you do, or you've not ever heard of it, or maybe you're thinking it's a bunch of hooey. I've kind of a character who happened to live a couple hundred years ago, who turns out to be a pretty good example of what happens if you believe you can do something and not even really have the skills or the knowledge to back it up, and that something still comes back at you. So we're going to be talking about that and talking about Mr. Timothy Dexter and the laws of attraction in episode number 95 of The Relaxed Male. Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies. Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. This is the show that helps men to find what their purpose is, find their destinations, and give them the courage and the insight on how to actually pursue that. Get rid of the garbage that we're wasting our life on, and actually grab a hold of our God-giving skills, abilities, and talents, and to actually make those our own and start living our life on our own terms. And if I could talk correctly, if this is your first time listening, I appreciate you taking the time to actually come on in and listen. We're going to be talking about laws of attractions today, and yeah, okay, it may be a little woo-woo when you hear about that, but bear with me. I think I've found a really neat example. I stumbled across a character that, in life and he really is, he's the weirdest dude I've come across, but he's interesting, and he really does show a lot of points when it comes to how the laws of attractions actually work. So let's go ahead. Let's get ourselves jumped in there. Most people have heard of laws of attraction. Maybe some have read, like, I think it's The Shack. Maybe even come across a couple of Abraham Hicks books. But what the laws of attraction is, as a whole, is basically your thoughts being able to manifest your results. Now, yeah, there's a lot more into it in between there, but when you boil it down to the mere essence, that's what it is. You think of what's going to happen, and it does happen. You ever had those times where you've had like a big sales meeting coming up, and you're just, you've got to be there. The guy that you're going to be selling to, he hates, one of his biggest pet peeves is when somebody is late. And you feel it deep down, you're thinking, oh God, I'm going to be so late. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And so you go to bed. You made sure you go to bed, 2 hours early. So you get up in enough time to make sure that you're showered and shaved and looking presentable and looking top notch. But yet you still know something's going to happen. You're going to be freaking late. This dude hates for people to be late, but you've got to do what you can to not get late. And so you get out the door 5 minutes before you normally leave. You've got this nailed down, or you believe you got it kind of nailed down. Maybe things are going to work out right. And you walk outside. Oh, you got a flat tire. Oh my God. So you go out and you get everything, get that tire changed out, and all right, fine, set in, go to turn the key. The battery's dead. Oh, good God, really? So you hunt around, maybe you've got a portable jumper, so you can hook everything up and you get the car started and you take off. And as you're going down the road, you're in the middle of a traffic jam, and it seems like the universe is just throwing everything to make sure that you're late to this. Well, that's the laws of attraction. Some people would argue that that's the laws of attraction that actually are in play. Because you knew you were going to be late. You believed with everything that you thought. You had those thoughts. I am going to be late. I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. And so because of that, the universe has manifested you being late. While other people, they can look at it and they go, you know what? I've got this all under control. this is going to be handled. And no matter what they do, things seem to always turn up sunny for them. That's what kind of happens with the main guy of our story today. And this guy's name is Timothy Dexter. He actually was born back in 1747 or something like that. A long while back. And, 1747. And he's interesting on this. But I wanted to, before we actually dive into Timothy again, where did the whole laws of attraction thing come from? Well, it's been around for a really long time. It's been, centuries, even millennia old, that people have those thoughts of, if you believe in this, it's going to happen. And it really the term laws of attraction really came to popularity with Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks, if you don't know who he is, it's a little woo-woo, it's a little bizarre, a little wonky. But anyhow, there is a couple, I think the man's name is Bill, and the wife's name is Esther. And Esther channels Abraham, the consciousness of the universe, essentially, through her and speaks to her. But for whatever reason, Abraham has a kind of Eastern European, Romanian accent. So it's good evening and that type of, that is a really cheesy accent, but I'm very bad in any type of accent. I do accents poorly in the best forms. But if you ever listen to the tapes, it is a little off-putting to hear her, you'll hear her talk. She'll be talking normally and she's okay. Well, let's channel, Abraham now, and you'll hear her breathe and then good morning. And it's just like, oh my gosh. All right. Well, this sounds fake already. And whether it is or isn't, I can't prove that, but still at the same time, it sounds so hokey that it takes a little bit for you to really get yourself into just listening to what they're saying and what they're trying to tell you, and to understand what the laws of attraction are. And the laws of attraction are, they're along the lines of what I believe. When it comes to wanting to get stuff done, if you're sitting there saying you can't do things, well, you're not going to be able to do things. But if you can program your mind so that you actually think that you're going to, if you can, if a lot of people who can wake up on their own, they say, all right, well, I need to wake up at 5:45 in the morning. And a lot of times you'll pay attention if you'll see that you'll wake up at 5:40 in the morning. If you can program yourself and and you put that programming in your head, you don't need the alarm. You can actually get up on your own. Now, I'll always have a thought of, well, I'm going to sleep late anyhow. And I have yet to get rid of that line of thinking. So I always make sure I set my alarm anyhow. And more times than not, I wake up a few minutes before my alarm goes off. That whole programming part is a way of setting yourself up for success. If you are doing something where you believe, hey, I can make $100,000 a month, in coaching. Well, you're going to start, whether you pay attention to it or not. If you lay that out there and you start firmly believing it, your brain will actually take that information and start applying it, and will look for signs and tips and places where it can actually proceed on doing those tracks. This is how I actually perceive the laws of attraction. I don't think it's as much. There's a little bit of ethereal beliefs. If you believe in God, then yeah, God's going to come in and he's going to help you. He sees that you're working at getting towards your goal. And so he's going to come in and lay stuff up so that it happens. That in my line of thinking is plausible, because I do believe in God. While some people, they don't believe in God. They believe it's the universe as a whole that is actually laying stuff out. So whether it's the universe or God, however you want to look at it, it's that the fact that you are actually applying yourself and have programmed your brain so that you can actually take the steps needed so that you can get that $100,000 a month in whatever endeavor you're doing, you're more likely to get it than if you're sitting there going, well, I'd like that, but I'm not the type of person. I can't do that. That's just too big. I would never be able to make that. And if I did, I would hate myself, because if you tell yourself all the reasons why you can't do it, well, your brain's going to go, okay, well, then you can't do this. So we're going to make sure you never, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get this. That is essentially is the laws of attraction. It's a lot of visualizations, a lot of affirmations, and you make sure that you believe. If it fails, well, there's probably something in there that you actually were telling yourself as a reason why you couldn't do that. Is a lot of what Abraham Hicks actually talks about whenever they talk about why the affirmations and the visualizations don't work. And it's like, well, probably because you had a thought in there, mixed in there, that was canceling everything else out, that you believe in more than what you were wanting to accomplish. Now, let's roll all that we now know in there over to 1747, when a little boy was born to a poor farming family. And this little boy was named Timothy Dexter. Now, Timothy Dexter was apparently a bit of a interesting kid. He decided he had all the school that he needed at second grade, and so he dropped out. And so he's only got to second grade education. So he doesn't know much. And you'll find out later on, his spelling is absolutely horrendous. He spells phonetically. And yet still, somehow along the way, he became an incredibly wealthy man. And all because he wanted to become rich. That was one of his main goals that he had stated later on. And he's a bit Forrest Gumpish, because he doesn't see that there's anything in his way. He's got such a line of innocence about him that as he goes through and tries to do stuff, all right, well, I can do this. I don't see why I couldn't do this. And he does it, and he doesn't have the blocking thoughts, the negatives of, let's try this. So if we started off, leaving the farming, agrarian, lifestyle of his parents, and became an apprentice for a tanner. And from there, he had a little bit of success. All of a sudden, he was making more money than he was while being a farm laborer for the family farm. But that wasn't what he was wanting. He knew he wanted to make more money. And lo and behold, he came across this very wealthy widow by the name of Elizabeth Frothingham. Such a wonderful name, in that. Elizabeth Frothingham. So she's the woman of Foamy Ham, and married her, and boom, overnight, he became rich. Now, he wasn't wildly rich, but he was rich. But he started to act like he was wealthy, or how he believed wealthy people should act. And this is one of the things when it comes to laws of attraction that you do. How you visualize. What does it look like when you have achieved your goal? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Visualize every little teeny tiny detail you could do, which obviously Timothy Dexter did, because he became what he deemed as rich. And once he became rich, he bought a mansion in Newburyport, Massachusetts. And he immediately started to annoy all the old money people that were in that area. And he walked around and acted like he was, something. I think he even dubbed himself Lord. And he was, but yet he still wanted to be a bit richer. He wanted to be closer he had his idols that were a lot more wealthy than what he was. But yet he was annoying people because of how he acted and stuff. And so they wanted to try to knock him down a peg. So what did they do? They actually were told, Timothy, that, hey, the Continental Congress has actually decided they're going to fund the Revolutionary War. This is right at a time during the Revolutionary War, obviously. And, the way they were paying their troops was with the Continental dollar. Or I believe it was called the Continental dollar, because they said there was nothing, more worthless than the Continental. But the Continental Congress made the promise that they would pay that dollar or pay that money back. They would back it with, once they won the war, by paying 1% of what the face value is. Doesn't sound like much, but people were selling the dollar for less than what it was worth. And Timothy, sure, yeah, let's, took the recommendations of his quote unquote friends and started buying up as much of this continental money as he possibly could. And he spent a whole lot of money. But once he got as much as he could amass together, he held on to it until the United States won its independence from England. And then I think it was Thomas Jefferson or one of the founding fathers. Anyhow, they argued that, hey, we've got to pay this back. We promised our troops that we were going to pay them back this amount. And when they finally got it pushed through, they were going to pay 1% of this as they promised. All of a sudden, Timothy may have had, $2 million of that, or more of that Continental Congress money, but he made money off of that arbitrage. And so he all of a sudden had the thought and even more belief that, hey, I know how to make good deals here. And because of that, he went off and he bought a couple of ships with the windfall that he made, and was listening to his friends talk, and they convinced him, like, hey, you know what really makes them make you a lot of money, man, is if you get a whole bunch of these bed warmers. Now, if you don't know what a bed warmer is, it's just as it sounds. It's something that's used to warm the bed, because back in the 1700s, there wasn't much electricity running around. Central heat and air wasn't quite invented yet. So in the wintertime, the house would get pretty darn cold. The bed would be pretty darn cold. So what you would do is you'd go to the fireplace and you'd open up the bed warmer and you'd take some coals and throw the coals inside of the bed warmer, close it up, slide it between the sheets, and let it heat your bed up before you crawl into bed. That way you're not sliding into icy sheets, which is really interesting experience if you ever happen to do that. But Timothy listened to what his not so good friends were telling him, and believing that, hey, they're right, I can actually make money with this. He took all these bed warmers and sent them off into the Caribbean area, and turned around and sold them to the demise. And now, how he actually ended up selling them was the captain. When he showed up, the people there didn't know what these bed warmers were. And so because the innocence of thinking outside the box and going, oh, I don't know what the heck this is, I don't know why it's got a hinge there, they looked at it and realized, hey, this would do a really good job of being a ladle for molasses. And so they sold out. The captain of the ship came back into port and was like, here's all your money. We sold out. And Timothy's like, all right. And listened to his friends again. It's like, his friends were like, oh, okay, well, we would have never thought of that. Let's try something I know they're never going to need. And they talked Timothy into actually going off and buying a whole bunch of woolen mittens and sending them down to the Caribbean. And so Timothy was being, simple-minded as he is, not dumb, just, simple. He didn't have much of an education, and believed that he could actually sell these. Turned right around and was like, all right, bought up a whole bunch of woolen mittens, sent them down there. And again, the captain came back with the tale that, he happened to just catch an expedition that's fixing to take off to Siberia. And so he sold his whole cargo of woolen mittens to these guys going up to Siberia. Just out of purity luck. I mean, you see how things kind of start lining up. It's like, all right, well, he believes he can sell these. Well, by God, he was even able to sell woolen mittens in the Caribbean, in the tropics of all places. I mean, holy smokes, how does that happen? Well, I believe that's probably laws of attraction in effect right there. And so he got even more wealthy because of that. He also went off and sold books in the Far East, because just so happened to be a group of missionaries that needed some more Bibles. And so he sent a load of Bibles over to the East Indies, and these missionaries just happened to be in the right place at the right time. A lot of luck happening right there, quote unquote luck. And so he was able to sell that and make lots of money. He even went off and rounded up all the stray cats that were in Newburyport and sent them down to the Caribbean, thinking, no one's going to want a whole bunch of stray cats. Well, lo and behold, what happened is when he sent those cats down there, the Caribbean was in the middle of a rat infestation. And they were like, dude, these cats are amazing. They'll take care of those rats. And sure enough, they helped get rid of the cats. And he sold stray cats to people down in the Caribbean. And so his friends, his adversaries, who were really not enjoying his income, his wealth, they kept trying to think, all right, so what else can we do? What else can we do? I know, let's talk him into selling coal to the biggest coal producer in England, to the main town where all the biggest coal deposit in England was at. I think it's Farthingham, I believe. I'm not 100%. I didn't write the name of them. Anyhow, so he loaded up, his 2 ships packed full of coal and went to England. Well, sure enough, right before they arrived, what happened? The coal workers went on strike. So he was able to sell his coal at a premium in the place where you weren't supposed to be. There was enough coal that the only place you could get coal in England was from this area. And it was, things, again, everything just lined up just right. He also just had these little one-offs again and again and again and again and again and again and again. He was known to, he also was told by his, quote unquote friends that, you need to collect all the whalebone that you can find, buy it up and hold on to it, because a little bit later people are going to really want it. Thinking that all this whalebone had become really, devalued. There's no value to it at all. And so they thought, he's got this big old basement and he's got it packed full of whalebone, thinking that, all right, we've got him ruined for sure. He just spent, maybe half of his fortune on all this extra whalebone, which was completely worthless and is losing value by the day. Well, lo and behold, after he got his basement packed full of whalebone, the fashion industry in France was like, men wear corsets now. And to make corsets, you need whalebone for to hold everything, hold your guts and all in place and to really shrink your waist. So where do we get all this whalebone? Hey, look, you got Timothy Dexter over here. He's got a whole whopping basement full of it. And so Timothy sent it off there and again made a crap ton of money off of it. He kept getting richer and richer no matter what everybody was doing. Now, Timothy was a bit on the weird side. I mean, somewhere along the way, he went off and bought some property in the middle of the richest area of Newburyport. And what did he do? He built the most ostentatious, over the top, gaudy looking mansion that you could ever think of. I mean, it's supposed to have like the cornets and all these other things. And then he also decorated his front yard with 40 wooden statues of people he believed to be important throughout history. He had George Washington misspelt with a J. He had He had Thomas Jefferson, except when the artist went through and hammered out. Actually, no, George Washington. He actually always got confused with what was the guy's name? It's Pitt. William Pitt. He always, for whatever reason, he could never keep the two straight. And so whenever the artist got finished carving everything up and had wrote down at the bottom George Washington, Dexter comes by and goes, "That's not George Washington. That's William Pitt, man. Put Pitt down there." And so got a misnamed statue of George Washington. Thomas Jefferson, his inscription at the bottom of his statue said that he was the author of the Declaration of Independence, which is true. But Dexter was like, no, he didn't do that. He was the author of the Constitution of America. And so the guy actually had to go through and change it to meet his whim. So he had all these giant wooden statues. I think there's like 2 or 3 that are still existing today, but most of them have weathered away and crumbled. But, and he even had one of himself, and the inscription on it was, "I am the first in the East and the first in the West and the greatest philosopher in the Western world." Yeah. Okay. What does that mean? We have no idea. But again, it's Timothy Dexter. You don't really fully understand what is going through his head. But at the same time, you see how he got, so wealthy strictly on the fact of how he was believing that he could become wealthy, that he was a great businessman and didn't believe that he was doing anything wrong and that there was nothing that was in his way to block him. He even went as far as writing some books. The first one was called, and no one understands why it's called this, but it's called A Pickle for the Knowing One. And in it is all phonetically spelled, or most of the words are phonetically spelled out. So United States of America U of United States is YOUNITED, United States of America. And there's no punctuation in the whole thing. And people bought this book up, just thought it was just the greatest joke known to man. People would actually thought it was a foreign language for a while, and they were trying to figure out, well, what in the hell is this dude actually trying to say? And they got linguists and everything over, and they're like, it's a dude who can't spell. It's a dude because he'd only had a 2nd grade education, so he didn't know whether he's right. And he wrote all this, and it was all just full of misspellings. There's capital letters where, capital letters really don't need to be, and not an ounce of punctuation. And so again, it's something that, not supposed to be, it's not going to work. That's not going to happen. No one's going to buy this 25-page essay called A Pickle for the Knowing One, not knowing what a pickle for the knowing one even means, and struggling to even be able to read what this is, and not having an ounce of punctuation. It should be an abject failure, but yet because of the laws of attraction and that Timothy Dexter believed he could do it, he sold that book, and it became a bestseller. Now, he did go through and do a 2nd edition of his book. And because he heard people talking about how, there's no punctuation in this thing, he actually did like 11 lines of just random periods, question marks, exclamation points, quotation marks, asterisks, just a bunch of punctuation on 11 lines of punctuation in there, with the instructions to the printer to pepper and salt these as he sees fit. So he just was like, he just put it in the back of the book and reprinted it. And again, people thought it was absolute gas because there's all just nothing but punctuations at the end. You want punctuation? Dude, I'll get you punctuation. Here's your punctuation. You just use those periods and exclamation points where you want to. And again, it's sold. So telling yourself that you can't do something because you are too dumb. Well, Timothy Dexter proves that that's not the case. You can actually do something. You can do whatever you set your mind to. If you believe that you have that ability to do something, you don't have to be annoying like Timothy Dexter. You don't have to build this giant, ostentatious, ugly, trashy, mansion when you want to, but you have to be able to believe in yourself. You have to be able to envision what you want. And that's where the laws of attraction actually does help. Yeah, it sounds far out. It sounds way too dang woo-woo for today's society, but yet it applies itself every single time. If you think you're going to be late or you have a bad feeling, I think the last time I really had something bad happen was I was driving down the road and I was like going, oh man, I hate to think this car is going to break down here real soon. And I was on our old Jeep, and sure enough, within a couple of weeks of there, guess what? The engine, took a dump and had to buy a new car. Didn't want to, but I had this thought that I didn't correct and balance out with a more positive. No, this thing's going to be running for another 100,000 miles. I just, I let that thought out into the universe and just let it set. And sure enough, it germinated, manifested itself as a Jeep being dead now. There's things where I manifest into the positive too. But again, you have to be able to believe what you're wanting. You have to be able to visualize what it is. Do you want a new car? What does that car look like? What color is it? What type of tires does it have on there? Is it a manual, or is it a standard, or a manual, or an automatic? All the details that you want in that new car, you can find. If you believe in it and you pursue that dream, you're going to have that dream. So as you go through this week, I would encourage you to go through and decide if you're tired of being, having a life that is very unfulfilling, then dude, start making thoughts and producing thoughts of what it is that you would like to actually have your life look like. Start taking the steps to change it. You have to take action, yes, but and that's what Timothy Dexter would do. He made plans. He knew he was going to be rich, so he took action to become rich. You can do the same thing. If you want to have your own business, you got to start looking at what it is that business is going to be. How is it going to work? And make all those plans, all those thoughts, and visualize what's your first store going to look like. Is it going, or what's your store, the end product of your store going to look like? What is that how are you going to behave? How are you going to act when you are at that particular level? When you make it to there, what do you look like? How does all the little bits that you can think of, how do they all mesh together? How do they become part of that result? And in doing so, you're going to get a lot closer to that, and you're going to have a lot better chance of actually making it to that. And you may even see the precise thing that you're dreaming of manifest itself in front of you. So with that, guys, I want to go ahead and I'll let you go. I want to thank you again for listening. If you are an Apple Podcast listener, you can go to relaxmail.com/Apple, and there you can actually leave a rating or review. If you are not on Android or something, you can actually go to relaxmail.com/Google, and that'll take you to Google Podcast. If you were wanting to subscribe, go to relaxmail.com/subscribe, and there I've got a list of all the different platforms that I can think of, including the Fountain podcast app. This app I'm beginning to really like. It's actually a value for value podcast app. So there's connecting up with the Lightning wallet, and so that you can actually start, sending Satoshis and things like that to people as you listen. It's really cool. It's all tied in with the podcasting 2.0. If you're not familiar with that, definitely go over to podcastindex.org and learn about what is coming. If you're interested in the nuts and bolts of podcasting, it's really interesting. If you're just use podcasting just to listen to gain knowledge as a lot of people do. Okay. There's new little features that are going to be coming available through the different podcasting apps. And some of them are where you can actually, if you find value in there, you can actually send me a couple dollars as a means of thank you just through the app itself. A lot of really cool things that are coming about because of that and all the hard work that Adam Curry, the old MTV VJ, his work in podcasting, being the podfather that he is actually what he's doing. So, little off topic on there, just really excited about all that. But if you go to relaxedmail.com/subscribe, you can find Overcast, Undercast, Castro, all the different, as many of the ones that I can find that have their own directory available. You can actually follow that link and it will actually bring you up to where you can subscribe in the app of choice. Or you can, if you're a Spotify follower, you can subscribe through or follow on Spotify. If you're on Apple, hit that follow or follow and subscribe where you like and what platform you like. So, guys, with that, thank you again for listening. We'll talk to y'all next week. Until then,